The Google Pixel Fold is Google's first foldable device, and boy am I happy with this device. There's a lot to love about this device, even with some of its flaws, which I believe you can probably fix. But again, this is the first one, the first generation, so it's only going to get better from here on and then. This is actually one of the best form factor when it comes to foldable devices for me, because the front display is actually pretty big enough to actually use it as a smartphone on its own. And then when you need to do a bit more work, you can simply just unfold it and you have a bigger display in your hands. Let's talk about the design first. I think for me, it looks pretty good. In fact, let me just take the casing off, because then we can get the full glory of what the device is. It actually sort of reminds me of what the Microsoft Surface Duo was meant to be, but wasn't. So here we are with a device that's really slick in terms of the design. So when it's closed, it looks much better than it actually does when you open it up, by the way, because you get that big bezel on the screen when you open it up. But you soon get over that, because when you start using it day to day, you forget that the bezel's there until someone brings in another device that has less bezels, and then you notice that it's there. The front-facing camera is on the inside as well, but it's enough to fold to be able to use the main camera if you want to use the main camera for your selfies and so on. Well, back to that design though. I've had it for a while, since launch, well, maybe just before launch when people can actually buy this. And one of the things I noticed so far is the durability, because on the back, I've got scratches on it already, because I intentionally, without case, put this in my pocket with keys, put it in my bag, just chuck it around like I normally would my smartphone. And if anyone wants to buy this is something that they actually naturally do. So therefore, this is the result of what you get. You get some scratches on the back, on that actual material, which is kind of annoying. I wish I put a case on it now, because it's not as fresh as it was when I got it. But you do get that Pixel 7 Pro-esque camera layout on the back, with the camera actually poking out from the body, which means when you lay it flat on the surface, it has a bit of a wobble as well, and it just sticks out a bit. But put a case on it and you're good to go, and that will protect your phone as well. The volume rockers on the side, the power button doubles up as a fingerprint sensor, so you can put your finger on it and that will unlock your device. We have a USB-C ports on the bottom with the micro SIM, nano SIM that goes in there, and the microphone and so on. So you get loads of things going on here. One of the standout features is the fact that this almost closes the gap when it comes to the gap between the both displays. So you can't really see much gap there. There's a tiny little gap, so it doesn't quite close up completely like the new Fold 5, Z Fold 5, or the likes of the Honor phone and stuff like that. But there's a tiny little gap there, which isn't too much of an issue for me, to be fair. One thing I love about the hinge is as tight as it feels, which means you can't really open it one-handed, because it's a bit awkward. You open it two-handed. But one thing I like about that is it's stiff enough to be able to place it in different positions. So you can have it like so, you can move it a bit down, you can have it in different angles, basically. I mean, it's gonna run over like so, but you can have it just placed as you want it to be, so you can watch a movie, top half, or you can use the bottom half for something else, and so on and so forth. So it's a really, really good design for me. It feels very solid, it feels premium for the price point that you're paying for the Pixel Fold. So that's no issues at all when it comes to the design. One thing about the inner screen though is, for me, it's not as vibrant as I want it to be. So for example, if you look at the colors right now, they look a bit dull compared to some of the other devices that I have, like the S23 Ultra, for example. I've even messed around with the display color settings, and it's still pretty much the same sort of experience for me. So if I go into display settings here, I can change the colors. So I've got it on adaptive at the moment, or I can have it as natural. Natural is actually worse for me because I just prefer the adaptive. But again, back to that though, the colors just doesn't stand out. It's not as vibrant as I want it to be. It looks a bit more natural and just a bit washed out in some cases. If you look at the icons like the blue on the Barclays app, it doesn't quite pop as it normally would on my S23 Ultra. Back to the settings, if you go back into that display, actually I've gone into battery there. Display settings, we look at our smooth display settings. So this can actually do up to 120 Hertz refresh. So again, good for gaming, good for general browsing and just scrolling. That smooth experience when it comes to scrolling and using that display is there for you. Back to the software, I know some people don't like the fact that when you change your home screen layout, it also affects what you get inside of the screen. But I kind of like it, because it goes back to my opinion about foldable phones, which is it should be a smartphone first before it becomes a full tablet device, because the tablet should be an extension of maybe you got extra work to do, you need to do some multitasking and so on and so forth. So you don't really need to have a differentiation between your home screen on the main display on the front, on the cover display, and this larger display. It's still a really good display, OLED display. You know, it does really well when it comes to brightness. You get some reflection thanks to that screen protector that's on there. So when using in broad daylight, you do get a reflection. It's bright enough, I think it's around 1450p brightness, but it still could be better, but it's okay. You can do a lot of multitasking on this, and I love the multitasking experience. Not as multitasking heavy as the Z Fold 5, where you can put up to 3 or more screens on the display. This will just do dual display setup. So for example, we can drag up from the front like so for multitasking, and you get that option there that says split. So you tap split, and we can select 2 applications that we want. So I'll go back to one that I've done already from earlier, which is the last use on here. So we've got settings on here at the moment. I can go back on that. And what I can then do on here is, actually, let me just go up. What I can then do on it is drag up again, and then I can drag Instagram, for example, and put it on either side, wherever I want it to be. And then I can drag it across as well if I want a bigger display on that side, or if I want the Chrome to be the priority, I can have that on the side. And they're both still doing what they need to do on either side. And it's very fluid, it's very smooth, and that's what you expect from a good processor as well. And speaking of processor, this is running on Tensor G2 sensor, which works really well. It runs really well in terms of running multiple applications like so. I can even run Call of Duty on one side and have Instagram running on the other side, and there's no problems there at all. And you can easily just drag from the bottom and drag different applications on there. Speaking of software though, there's still some applications that aren't optimized to work properly on here, but that's not Google's fault. That's the application developer's fault. For example, if I open up Instagram, it takes up one side of the screen. I want it to take up the whole thing so I can have the full experience, but it doesn't do that just yet. So Meta, we're looking at you. Update your software, update your application so we can actually use it. But when you're using all the Google applications like Chrome here, runs the whole full screen. One thing to bear in mind though is when you're watching a video, you do get this letterboxing effect, which can be annoying because you then have to decide whether you want to watch it with the black bars or do you want to zoom out and lose some of the content that you're actually watching, which looks really good. If it actually is designed to fill the screen like this, that would have looked perfect for me, but it just loads up in that letterboxed format, which I'm not a big fan of, which is a shame in that area. More on the processing performance though, as much as this is good for multitasking, no issues loading applications side by side, etc. You can even game. I'm playing Call of Duty right now and it works really well. There's no issues at all. That refresh rate is doing a great job at making sure I've got a great experience when I'm gaming away like so. And it's very, look at that, I'm just pressing and it's just there. I mean, I'm not that good at this, as you can see. But what you can also do is with this, there's continuity as well. So we can carry on playing that game on the front screen as well. I mean, the resolution, the aspect ratio is a bit off there. But if I was playing at the beginning on the front cover, I can then open it up when I need to do so and carry on the main display, and it just, like so, it just goes back to where I was continuing on. So, and that's a testament to how good the processor actually is when it comes to gaming and how fluid the actual experience is when it comes to gaming. The issue that I've got here is sometimes you get software glitches. Some I can't even replicate right now. For example, when we were out and about taking photos, the camera app just kept crashing, and sometimes it glitches. It just freezes on trying to switch between ultra wide to main to 2x zoom, etc., which was quite odd because I thought, why is it doing that? And that's one issue. Another issue is this gets quite warm as well when you're using it for all kind of stuff and using it all day long. So for example, this side of the device on the right side right now is quite hot whilst I'm using this, but it's not hot that you can't hold the device. But when compared to its competitors, it's actually warmer than they were when doing the same sort of task. So that's something to bear in mind as well. So maybe this is something that Google can perfect and get better at the next iteration of this Pixel Fold. When it comes to the camera quality, it performs really well. If you've used the Pixel 7a, Pixel 7 Pro already, you are going to get the same experience on here. I mean, the camera looks good, the skin tone looks really good as well. That's something Google have perfected already with skin tone. Portrait mode is good. You can do eraser. You can do all kind of different stuff when it comes to the photo quality on here and camera performance. But it's nothing I can complain about. I think it works really well. If you want to take photos, whether it's landscape photography, whether it's selfies, whether it's whatever you can do that. And you can also use the main camera as well by just pointing it at yourself and take some photos using the main camera instead of that front-facing camera that you've got inside or on the front there. So that's something I'll probably use more than anything else. But otherwise, looks really good. You can zoom in and still get really good details on there. Video's good as well. Nighttime photography, excellent. Would you look at that? I would say we can't replicate the crashing. So right now I've got camera open and it's just fully crashed. It's just frozen, nothing's happening. Like so, some of the overlays and stuff like that still work, but in terms of the visual itself, nothing's happening, as you can see there. And then eventually the whole app would just crash and close. But yeah, as you can see there, that's what I was talking about. So in some cases it works really well. So gaming, multitasking, camera app just crashed like that. So that's the software glitch, just little things that Google needs to refine to make this as good as it can possibly be. Overall, for me, for the Pixel Fold, it's not the camera that's got issues, it's not the processing power in terms of being able to run multiple applications. It's not even the design for me, because there's barely any crease there. It's barely visible, although it's there when you're not using the screen. It works really well when it comes to multitasking, loading apps side by side. I like the software experience. It's very, very simple and minimalist, although the multitasking could be better in terms of the Samsung level, loading multiple applications. This could support a pen, for example, like the S Pen, for example. That could be a really good choice, good thing to have. But in terms of form factor, I love it. It's one of my favorite form factor for any foldable devices. The issue I've got in general is just the fact that the camera app keeps crashing, for example. It gets quite hot as well after, using it for loads of processor-intensive tasks. But other than that, it's definitely a device to consider. It's one of my favorite foldable devices out there right now. So that's that for that. Let me know what you think though in the comments below. Is this something you would invest in? Would you get this over the new Z Fold 5? Let me know in the comments below. And thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.